This is the review of the CMMG 22 long rifle conversion for the AR-15 platform. In this review, I'll be discussing a few different things that I encountered with this conversion kit, as well as the ARs I put this kit into. So hang tight and enjoy the video. Please like and subscribe and let me know how I'm doing. Alright, so here is the AR-15 conversion right here. The way this works is, as you can see here, this is your chamber. It's basically like a little barrel extension. There's no rifling inside of it. And when I get it apart, I'll show that here. But basically, this is its own captured system. And it does not impinge upon the gas tube or anything else in the AR actually functioning, aside from the way the lower and the upper fit together, and this basically fitting in the chamber properly. So for an example of that, I will grab my rifle here. There is the upper, and this, and mind you, because of YouTube policy, I cannot show this being put in. So here's a little editing magic. Bam. And there it is. And as you can see, right here is where it sits. Now, this stays in here, not by the charging handle at all. The charging handle does not hold that in. That flat piece that sticks up, it does. And that actually holds on the top of your lower receiver. As you can see some of the wear marks there on the aluminum. But that's how this CMMG 22 fits in here. And it just slides into the chamber like so. Now, because this is not a firearm, I believe I'll be okay with getting away with showing disassembly on this, as this is not a firearm. This is merely an accessory, and I hope YouTube takes note of that as I go forward with this video. But as you can see here, you have these two prongs on this burned out piece of stainless, and actually this pries out in order for this piece to come off. Alright, now that that is apart, you can see there's in fact no rifling, and you can see the smooth wall on the inside. And so this sits in your chamber. This here sits in the where your bolt and everything would traditionally be. And yeah, this just rests right in there. It does have its own feed ramp. Here's your bolt. But as you can see, there's your guide rod pinhole. That's what your guide rod sits in. That there is your ejector. So that kicks your casing out. And this is actually kind of neat because this still uses some AR-15 bolt components, namely the retainer pin. For the firing pin. But aside from that, just about everything else is proprietary. This comes apart very easily as well. This pin is easily slid out the bottom. Down here, as you can see, there's a bit of a ridge there holding the pin in from going up. And so the only way it can go is down. And so it's actually held in when it's cycling by the rails on this. So your rails here actually hold this pin in for your extractor. So, and then that just cycles back as your ejector kicks the casing out. Now, I will put the footage in here, but I had some trouble with this, but primarily it was the gun.
So I'm having some issues with the Great Lakes again. And of course it's with my CMMG conversion. Of course, there I'm already having a problem with it loading. But I'm having two issues. One, when I hold up on the magazine, when it's trying to eject, the case gets stuck. Trying to eject out, and it's having a strange ejection pattern where it's actually flipping the case around and keeping the bolt from closing. The second issue I have is if I just let the mag sit free, it has a hard time actually feeding the round into the chamber reliably. So let's see if we can get some of that to repeat here. So there is the first issue I talked about, where I just, as you can see, that round's pretty much ruined. All right, and so let's reinsert. See, if I let that sit there down on its own, it won't, and it has a hard time actually getting the round up into the chamber. So if I do this and hold up on it, it's fine. Which, again, lends credence to the fact that the mag well is out of tolerance. Now if I hold up on it though, okay, that one had a feeding issue. Oh, that's locked up. That is locked up. Oh, there went the casing. So down here, right what I was talking about. See that case? How it's crushed? That case flipped up inside the receiver up by the gas tube, and actually crushes up in there against it. And I had this as well when I was benching this. So I'm getting different reliability issues based on how I hold the mag, or how the mag is just sitting in the mag well. So again, I think this is the problem, which the slide out here, I don't know if you guys can see that, but there's the chatter in the mag well. This is not machined to the right tolerances. I've seen all sorts of other videos with these, and they seem to run fine, except this one doesn't. And this has had problems with 5.56, with specific magazines, and now I'm going to have to conclude that the CMMG 22 conversion is just not going to work in this rifle. And that gun, if you've been on my channel or seen any of my other videos, is from this company. Now, again, like I said before, I don't have high hopes for this. I got it to work with 5.56 after a lot of things had to change. Namely, I had to get a whole new bolt carrier group, and I also had to do some burr work up in the upper receiver. Then I had to take a deburring tool and go up in there and change a few things. Namely, your dust cover. My dust cover would not stay closed, so I had to go in there with a ball nose end mill and basically mill that out by hand to get this to close properly. And I have another video with all of the shenanigans I had to go through getting this rifle to work. But when I ran it in this, initially it ran fine. After I ran it in this gun, after about, say, 200 rounds, I started to have a lot of issues that otherwise I couldn't really explain.
Namely, I had a lot of feeding issues, and it depended on how I held the magazine. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, you know, it's just getting dirty, it's getting carbon buildup. But when I went and cleaned this and I went back out on the range, and that's actually where I have the shooting footage from, I still ran into the same problems with this gun. Now, I had another gun out there that I could readily pop this into and test, and it ran flawlessly. I actually took the boogered up rounds from here that got jammed at a weird angle and threw it back in the magazine, and it fed those rounds. And in addition, this conversion, I actually dropped in the mud, in the snowy mud, out in the snow when I was taking this apart, because this is not retained by your charging handle. So if you pull this apart, while you're standing up and you're resting this against your hip, your natural tendency is to have the gun tilted back. Well, this entire assembly fell out into the mud. And I basically just took some snow, cleaned it off, blew it off, and then, slapped it in the other gun. It ran flawlessly, ran like a champ. So, all right, so we got the CMMG and this M16 setup. So, not a real one, but just semi-auto, but a clone nonetheless. We're going to see if we have the same problems as in the Great Lakes. I would say conclusively that we do not. Would I recommend these? Yes, but don't strictly assume that this is the problem. Because, again, I've had problems with this gun. I had problems with it in 5.56 because the magwell isn't to the proper spec. There's a lot of other things that are not to spec on this, namely how square it is. But because of that, I was able to figure out that it's this and not the CMMG. The CMMG runs great when you get it in the right gun. So if you really want to know what a good AR is, throw one of these kits in there, because if it runs good, like let's say you run it in a Daniel Defense or an off-the-wall Delton, which is what that was. That was a Delton M16 kit. You run it in one of those kits, you're going to, or even another rifle that is just an off-the-shelf rifle from a larger company, you're probably going to find that it's going to run okay. So, it's not to say small companies are bad. I have a lot of small company stuff. I love local companies, but this is an example of another failure from this company. I can't do anything with this lower. I can't trust it for my life. I can't trust it to even run a 22 without being a single shot. If I wanted to even do any hunting with this and run, like, let's say 350 Legend or 450 Bushmaster, how would I know that would reliably cycle? Because those are made to run using a standard USGI magwell. But if the tolerances are different enough to where those cartridges won't work anymore in this lower, right? How can I use this? So it's just things to think about when you're getting into doing builds, or maybe even getting your first gun, because if you get something like this, it's going to ruin your experience with a lot of other calibers and things, and then you'll blame those kits or you'll blame those parts and go, oh, well, those are bad. When really it's the lower or the gun that you started out with. So, again, if you're really going to do some testing or wanting to try some stuff out, I'd recommend maybe getting a buddy who also has an AR. If you have a couple ARs, try your uppers or different things between them, and try your kits between them, just as a precautionary measure to make sure it really is that. Because if you just throw it on something and go, oh, it doesn't work, you really don't know what it is. Because it may work fine, 5.56, right? Like this runs 5.56 now. It didn't at first, but now it runs it. But it can't run 22. There's just something about that magwell geometry that it does not like interacting with this conversion. So I hope you all have a great day. Stay safe out there, and God bless. Don't be sure to like and subscribe. Comment below if you got anything to say. I know a lot of people are getting defensive about their ARs, their Great Lakes AR. If it works for you, that's fine. But I'm telling you that it may not be the best. Just because something works doesn't mean it's the best option. So use it if you got it, right? As they say, if you're comfortable with using, that's fine. It's not my rifle. That's up to you. You're a grown adult. But if I am showing and verifying this data and showing you what's happening with these products, why not just take that and go, well, maybe I need to reevaluate, or maybe I need to test my gear instead of getting all upset. So this is out there to help people learn and educate and get better with their kit and become more familiar with it. So I hope you all have a good day. God bless. Please like and subscribe.